So, in life, there is always going to be that one person, or that one person who is a complete piece of crap. And sorry. And through that, there is this little quote that resonates really well with that. The trouble with the rat race is that even if you win, you're still a rat. And it's a very interesting little topic, as well as very relevant to today's day and age. I'll start with the school days. There's always that one person, or maybe many people nowadays, that cheat to get to where they are. They get the good grades and all that, but still, if you don't work to get those grades, then what the hell was the point of that? What did you learn to get to where you are, to get that grade? This also goes into the drug dealers nowadays. They always want easy money. So yes, they do all this bad stuff, they get all this money. But eventually, you will get caught, or karma will catch up to you. So again, why did you do all this? You made all this money for nothing, basically. There are also, sorry, I'm kind of getting sick. There are also those people that that will take advantage of you in relationships. Like they'll manipulate you to get what they want, which is usually either sex or an ego boost. And after they get what they want, they'll just leave the person out in the dust. And what did they just do? They just basically ruined their own reputation, because now in today's day and age, you can get everything out. Like the person who they cheated on, they can just text, they can basically ruin them. So again, why did you do this? You did this to improve yourself? Well, guess what? You just destroyed yourself. And yeah, so what I want to get back to is that you could win being scummy, but in the end, you're still just a piece of crap, and that's what you'll be if you don't do things the right way. And I say that with quotation marks. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry for the cough.
All right, well, the opening line about there's always somebody who's a piece of crap, it's a little vague as to what it is you're talking about until you get into the speech. And then if we're looking at your examples that you're talking about, then it makes a little bit more sense how that fits into what you're discussing. The fact that it comes back around to that at the end is the only thing that makes that worthwhile as an attention device. Otherwise, it seemed like it was probably unnecessarily vague and maybe a little too in your face to start with. The thesis is kind of identified. I guess you're going to agree with the quote. Yeah, you definitely identified the quote. I got the impression that that's kind of what you were doing. There's not really a preview of what the supporting structure is going to be. I could pick out the examples that you had. You had school, drugs, and relationships. So, but you're giving that to us as you go along. So there's no setup ahead of time. I don't know what to anticipate next. I don't know if you had those ahead of time or if you're just making them up as you went along. That's a little less clear. And it would be better if it sounded like you knew ahead of time everything that you were going to say, even though I know that you don't always know everything ahead of time. At least if I knew you had a plan, that I'd feel a little bit more confident. It feels in the body of the speech a little repetitive. You're saying the same kind of thing, but with a high degree of ambiguity. I'm still wondering what all the horrible things are that are happening in those relationships when people use each other. And the drug dealers, when you talked about karma, I was waiting for you to tell me a story about how karma came around and got to somebody. The drug dealer who was murdered, or who went to prison forever, or whose family was wiped out by a rival gang, or they've got a whole bunch of possessions, but ultimately that got taken by the IRS, something like that. It's not that hard to come up with a negative scenario that would make it a little bit more intriguing. As it is, it just feels like you're kind of going through the surface part of it, and you haven't really developed anything to talk about on those points. Presentation issues, we can hear you pretty well. There's reasonable variety in your voice. You do a couple of things that I think are problematic. One is that deep breath that you take right before you start. You may be trying to deal with your anxiety issues there, but it looks the exact opposite. It's like I got to take a deep breath so I can get through this, and that makes it too obvious. So you want to be a little bit more subtle when you're doing that. Also, we get several spots where you aren't particularly fluid moving from one idea to the next. So you want to plan your pauses a little bit more and try to keep the flow going while you were speaking. I know that there are going to be places where you have to hesitate a little bit to catch up with the next idea, but there's got to be a way that you can make it sound a little bit more like it's purposeful rather than just, I'm stuck for the next thing to say and I'll be lucky if I come up with something. You had, there was an exit, that was fine. I think a summary would be helpful to make the speech feel a little bit more complete. I did notice that you were as far back as you could get without being behind the screen. And once you told me that you were getting sick, I was perfectly happy with that. And as a matter of fact, I'd kind of prefer that you'd sit over there right now because I don't want Dave anywhere near me.
Yeah, that's
Thank
why,
you.
that's why you
All right.